Quasi here, and in this video, I want to talk to you about semen retention and really the $30,000 lesson I learned from my mentor. And by the end of this video, I'm going to share with you 3 keys to really become a conscious creator of your life, rather than being so reactive to it, and how, I really use these to become successful and how it completely changed the whole quality of my life. Please make sure you stick around to the very end of this video, because this was something that was profound for me. Before I get started with this video, I want to announce quickly that a couple of spots have opened up for the free one-to-one consult with me and my team for the Reality Mastery program. Make sure you wait around till the end of the video for the announcement for that. And with that, let's get started. So in this video, I want to talk to you about semen retention and why this is probably the most harmful thing you can do, alongside with something else that I saw was super harmful. And what I mean by harmful is essentially that it's not going to serve you, right? It's not going to serve the kind of goals you're wanting to achieve. And this is why it always feels like something is getting in your way as well. And what I want to share with you is that most nowadays, with society as it is right now, we are addicted to short-term pleasures and compulsive behaviors that lead to that short-term dopamine spike, okay? So the key word here is short-term pleasure. What do I mean by that? Well, if you really look at the kind of thing that's happening in your brain, right? Whenever you do masturbate, whenever you do spill your seed, it becomes detrimental to you, because this is what you're training yourself to do. You're training yourself to look at activities and look for activities that give you this and your dopamine. It gives you a short-term spike, but then you go down, right? For a single moment, you feel good, right? This is short-term pleasure. Let's call them STP. Long-term pleasures, on the other hand, they're not cyclical, where you just keep looking for that activity to keep you high. But this is something you nurture over time. And it grows up to that level and it stays consistent. So why this was key for me to understand is because when you become compulsive, you essentially become reactive. So compulsivity leads to reactivity. What do you think happens when you become reactive to life? You no longer become a powerful creator of it, but you become a powerful reactor to it. You're always going to be unconscious. You're always going to be controlled by something else. Masturbation and sex is going to run your life. You're not going to run it. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So when you naturally gravitate towards these compulsive behaviors and what feels good, you're a slave to feeling good. You're a slave to these good feelings. But what you got to know is that, if you don't sacrifice for your dreams, then your dreams inevitably become the sacrifice. What successful people do is they know to sacrifice these short-term pleasures for longer-term gain. So this is what they focus on. LTPs, long-term pleasures. So when you sacrifice short-term, watching TV and getting that spike, and you read a book, you gain knowledge out of that you can apply in your life, right? Which leads to this longer-term pleasure, this longer-term gain. When you sacrifice that shorter-term hanging out with friends to work on your business, you get to this longer-term pleasure when you have that successful business. When you sacrifice, shorter-term getting the wrong kind of clients to your program just to make a quick buck now, and you bring in the right kinds of people to your program, then longer term, you get a kind of community that actually serves and nurtures the growth of this, and more like-minded people come and you get better results out of it. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So the key thing to understand is that when you do short-term pleasure activities, you're sacrificing that longer-term gain. Okay? Now, it's not to say that short-term pleasure activities are bad, but it's just not serving you, So things like excessive spilling of your seed, things like excessive phone checking, these all give you a dopamine spike, and it gives you a reward for things that haven't really happened. Okay? So when you masturbate, that's what you're doing. When you check your phone excessively, when you drink caffeine, when you do, things that, it's just driving mankind nuts, because you can't just sit down and be, but you've always got to compulsively do something. And when you become reactive, you're no longer becoming proactive. This is what we want to get to. Okay? So successful people are wired for longer term pleasures, LTPs. When you learn to wire yourself for longer term pleasures, this is the shift that happens. You stop focusing on these short-term activities. Let's say you want to start a business, right? And you stop focusing on that shorter-term activities you stop looking for that quick result and that quick win, but rather you become more patient naturally. And you start to look for, okay, let's try this out for a couple months, 3 months, a year, and see if I can do it, right? When you gain that quality of patience, it starts to reflect out in every single area of your life. You no longer need to do something, and your life isn't run by doing, but just by the mere quality of being. Okay? So what I mean to say by this is there are essentially two biggest killers, which I've seen in my personal life as well. And that is excessive sex and masturbation and excessive phone checking. This was something that was key for me. Social media, phone checking, because it emulates the same effect in your brain. Okay? And what I mean by this is any unconscious activity that you're doing. There is nothing wrong with sex. There is nothing wrong with checking your phone. You can use both of these, for greater good. You can use a knife to kill a family. You can use a knife to feed a family. It's the choice that you make. Are you coming at this from a place of consciousness or unconsciousnness? When you spill your seed, 1 drop of semen is worth 40 drops of blood. In ancient Sanskrit, we call this vidya. Okay? Vidya means life force. When you spill a drop of this, you have less life force available. That's why these brahmacharyas are able to go about and sleep 3 hours and still be crazy energetic, right? So what I mean to talk about in this whole topic isn't that, okay, stop spilling semen, stop having sex, stop doing this, stop doing that, but see what happens when you do try it. See how your brain is wired differently. Nowadays, people are getting ADHD because you want to check your phone every 2 minutes. You got to have your phone on while you watch a movie. It's absolutely insane. Okay? So really, I want to share with you 3 keys that's going to help you wire yourself from getting these shorter term pleasures and being addicted to shorter term pleasures, being reactive, and to really help you become more proactive. Okay? So number 1 is when you have a vision and you have a good enough reason to eliminate these activities, then you will. Okay? Don't eliminate these activities for the sake of eliminating them, but do so because you actually have a longer term purpose. You see your life getting to a certain level. You want to get to a certain level of development. You want to become better. You want to, have a successful business, or you want to really make a change and you want to do this consciously. Again, if we look at that graph, if you start seeking those activities that are wired to shorter term pleasures, then you're always going to need them to fulfill some need. You're going to have this internal void that's always unfulfilled. You'll never be able to just sit quietly and feel complete. Okay? This was something that was very important for me to learn. But at the same time, whenever you do decide to have sex, make this a conscious decision. Make all activities conscious. So this is the part that's important. You've got to honestly ask yourself, is this activity running me, or am I choosing to do it? Okay? If you choose to retain for 30 days, by all means go for it. But make sure it's your choice, not that you're putting too much importance on it. Because this can work both ways. You can say, I choose to masturbate and have sex. That's fine. But ask yourself honestly, are you choosing to do this? Do you really need caffeine to help you get through the day? Or, are you actually making that choice? So this is what I mean by need versus want. Need is unconscious. Want is conscious. Want is when you're choosing this. You make this choice to experience this for your life. Need is when you say, I can't do without it. I need it. I need it. I must have it. Things that come from a place of need come from a place of unconsciousness. If you become successful from a place of unconsciousness, you're always going to suffer your success. One of 2 things happen. Either, let's say you get rich, right? But you can't enjoy that wealth, or you get rich only to lose all of that money and go bankrupt. I can't tell you how many people I've seen do like a 30K month in their business just to lose it all the next month and go bankrupt, right? Or, they make a lot of money in their professional careers, but they've done it unconsciously. They didn't really choose it, but they were put into that track. They thought that's what they wanted, their mind's conception of it. That's why they were never able to enjoy that wealth in the first place. On paper, they're successful, but they're not happy with their wealth. This is what I mean. When you do all of these activities consciously, you have that cup of coffee, you drink it consciously. You choose to get on your phone and respond to these messages. You choose to, have sex with your partner. Then this becomes a conscious activity, right? But when you feel that I need to do this or else I won't be able to do X, Y, Z, that's when you got to stop doing that, right? That's when it's becoming unconscious. So that's number 2. This was extremely key for me to understand. Number 3 is just eliminating all triggers that lead you to that, okay? So every single trigger that you have that helps you sort of get into that unconscious activity and fall into the trap, get rid of it. What do I mean by this? Think about it this way. Let's say you're addicted to pornography and you have Instagram and you just follow like girls and nude pictures. So whenever you see one of them, it's going to lead you into a hole, and next thing you know, you're going to end up relapsing. Do you see what I mean? If you have an addiction to hamburgers and you just keep hamburgers in your fridge, well, it's just a matter of going downstairs to your fridge and getting a hamburger, right? But as opposed to that, if the nearest hamburger or fast food store was like 100 miles from you, you wouldn't drive 100 miles to relapse. Do you see what I'm trying to say? So all these triggers do is help you fall into it. It's like an activation energy kind of thing. The lower the activation energy, the easier it is to fall into that trap. So let's say this is activation energy number 1, which leads you to the trap, versus activation energy number 2, which leads you into the trap. You want to increase the activation energy needed for you to relapse. So the biggest thing, the $30,000 lesson I learned from being in a mastermind with my mentor, was that he's deleted all his social media, like all the apps in it, all Instagram, Facebook, everything else, like Messenger, email, Gmail. So I started to see what it did to my quality of life when I was constantly on my phone. My relationship with my wife got terrible. I wasn't giving attention to her, but I was just on my phone 24/7. I wasn't sleeping well because all I could think about was business, business, business. I couldn't shut off. So I just did that drastic thing. I deleted everything. I don't use Instagram anymore. If I do, I use it on my computer. I've deleted the Facebook app. My screen time went from 2 hours a day to 12 minutes per day, right? So what I want you to know from this is that if your screen time is more than 40 minutes, you're wasting your life. Like, I don't care if you have a business that you do it from your phone, or you have something important to do. Use your computer to do it. Because what happens is, in your phone, you have all these applications, which is naturally going to get to those triggers. You think about going on your business stuff and doing work there. You think about answering emails from your phone. But what happens is, oh, look, Instagram's there. Let's go into that. And then you fall into that trap, that cycle. And it leads you into this vicious cycle of reactivity. Okay, this is the surefire way of becoming unconscious, and your brain just gets the dopamine spike. And especially when you check your phone multiple times a day, let's say first thing in the morning and last thing before bed. These two things are a recipe for disaster. I stopped checking my phone completely, a hard stop at 7:30 p.m. If your bedtime is like 10 p.m., let's say, you want to at least 2 hours before bed, completely eliminate checking your phone. This one practice has led me to having a greater quality of life, making more money in my business, becoming more conscious, becoming more empty, becoming less reactive, becoming more conscious, right? With emphasis on becoming more conscious. So these are the 3 keys that help me completely change my life and get out of those compulsive activities to contribute all of this energy onto something greater. Okay, the other thing that you're doing when you get into these compulsive activities is you have energy leaks. Okay, so let's say you have this goal and most of your energy is focused on the goal. But then you have these leaks of where you're unconscious, right? You need to check your phone, you have less time available to focus on your business, you get into that trap. You do 30 minutes of deep work and 20 minutes of checking your phone within the 30 minutes. So you actually do 10 minutes of deep work, right? So we want to seal these gaps that we have by becoming as conscious as we possibly can. I'm telling you, this one practice of just removing all these apps from your phone and only using them from your computer is probably going to have one of the biggest effects on your life. And at least it did for me. So now I want to recap to you the general gist of this video and what we talked about and how to truly become more conscious and why this was the most important thing for me. Number one, most people are addicted to this short-term pleasure. When you go to spill your seed every day and you think it's healthy for you, you try to convince yourself that you'll not get prostate cancer or some other bullshit. You're basically telling yourself and giving yourself an excuse to have this short-term pleasure. If you choose to do it, make sure you make the conscious choice to do it, okay? Don't let it run you, run it. And whenever you become compulsive, you need this activity, you naturally become more reactive, okay? The goal is to become proactive and lead to these long-term pleasure activities that have a sustained high. This is what happens when you meditate. You feel good, but it's never really like that spike, so it doesn't feel as good. It doesn't feel a craving, but rather you sustainedly feel good and at peace, okay? These are the higher consciousness activities. And understand that successful people are wired for long-term pleasures because businesses don't grow overnight. They can happen quick, but they don't grow overnight. You don't get a result out of things you do today and wake up next morning a billionaire, right? So this is also why people who are wired for short-term pleasures, when they approach the stock market, they let their emotions get in the way. Right? They suck at trading and they make big losses because they are reactive to the market. Okay? So understand successful people are wired for longer-term pleasures. And the two biggest killers I've found are excessive sex and masturbation and using your phone and checking your notifications excessively. When you do these two things, you naturally become unconscious. Even on top of that, caffeine too. Like most people nowadays need caffeine to help them go about their days. But when you come at it with a mindset of, I want to enjoy this cup of coffee, I want to enjoy this glass of wine, then you're coming from a completely different place. Now you no longer need it, but you're doing it because you want to experience it. Okay? And the three keys we talked about was, first of all, having a big vision and a reason. Because without this is the 80%, by the way. If you don't have a good enough reason to eliminate all of these things, you're not gonna. Like, if you don't have a good enough reason to eliminate excessive masturbation, why would you do it, right? And number two, learn to make these activities conscious. If you choose to do it, make sure it's your own choice and nothing's running you, okay? It's not controlling you. And number three, eliminate all of the triggers. This is the final 20%, by the way. But this is very, very powerful still. Because now you're making this activation energy, the original one, old activation energy, new activation energy. When you increase the activation energy, now it takes you more energy to relapse. If you don't have the apps, you have to physically go on your computer to relapse. If you have the nearest fast food store 200 miles away, you have to drive 200 miles to relapse and eat that junk food, right? So with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. Please leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of this. And as I mentioned before, the free one-to-one consult with me and my team for the Reality Mastery Program is now open. Make sure you click in the link in the description below to sign up for that. Who we typically work with are, first of all, professionals who are looking to take their careers to the next level. They've tried all the different business opportunities as well. Maybe they want to transition out. They've tried the drop shipping, the trading, the affiliate marketing, the FBA, and they see that with all of these things, other people are becoming successful with it, but for some reason they can't. And it's not a tactical and strategic problem, but it's the place that they're coming from. It's an internal problem, an internal ceiling is keeping them stuck here. If that sounds like you, click on the link in the description below. Let's see how we can help. And also entrepreneurs who are looking to take their revenues to the next level, and they see that they're hitting a ceiling at this current revenue. They have all the masterminds, they have all the tools, strategies, tactics, but for some reason they can't scale up their businesses. It's just not working. And again, they see that it's not a skill set and a tactical problem, but an internal problem that's keeping them stuck here. If that sounds like you, please make sure you click on the link in the description below to sign up for a call, and let's see how we can help. And also the free Facebook group is also open for you to take advantage of. Click on the link in the description to sign up for that. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Peace.